"You're too old to manage money now," Kevin hissed, his grip like steel digging into my fragile wrist. Jessica leaned closer, her sugary voice betraying the venom beneath. "Just sign it, Mom." In the polished glass wall, I saw his eyes, predator's eyes, certain he had already trapped me. The papers blurred before me. The deed to the house David and I built, brick by brick, about to vanish from my trembling hands. Inside Harris National Bank, surrounded by strangers who thought this was just a family errand, I realized it wasn't. It was a takeover. I'm Evelyn Carter, 69 years old, widow, mother, grandmother, and for the past year, since David passed, I've been surviving on little more than memories, grief, and the quiet company of my granddaughter Chloe when she sneaks away from her parents' endless demands. David's death left a hole, not just in my heart but in my finances. Medical bills swallowed our savings, and the life insurance, what little remained, was supposed to help me breathe easier in old age. But Jessica, my only child, saw things differently. She used to be my pride, my miracle after years of trying. I raised her through storms of bills, late-night jobs, and sacrifices no one ever truly saw. I sold my mother's heirloom necklace to pay her college tuition. I worked double shifts at the diner to cover her wedding, the one where Kevin insisted on a ballroom venue with chandeliers. I even mortgaged our home so they could buy a bigger house in the suburbs. Every time I told myself, this is love. This is what mothers do. And yet, love, at least theirs, seems to come with a receipt. Back at the bank, Jessica leaned close, her perfume overwhelming, the same one I had once given her on her 30th birthday. "Mom," she cooed, "this will make everything easier. Kevin will take care of the legalities. You don't have to stress." I wanted to believe her. For a split second, I almost did. But then I remembered last month. We were sitting in her kitchen, Chloe tugging on my sleeve, asking me to help with her dance recital costume. I pulled out a small envelope of cash I had hidden away, just enough to cover fabric and shoes. Jessica's eyes flickered, not with gratitude, but irritation. She snatched the envelope, muttering under her breath, "It's about time you contributed. Kevin and I can't carry you forever." Carry me? The words sliced deeper than she realized. After decades of carrying her, suddenly I was the burden. And now, here in the bank, I saw the continuation of that same script. Kevin tightening his grip, Jessica smiling to mask it. "Ma'am?" Mr. Harris, the bank manager, appeared beside us with a polite nod. His suit was neat, his demeanor professional, but his eyes studied me a second too long. Maybe he saw the tremor in my hands. Maybe he noticed Kevin's iron grip. I wanted to scream, "Help me, please. Don't let them take everything David and I built." But the words froze in my throat. Shame has a way of gagging you, especially shame that your own child is the one stealing from you. I had heard whispers before. My sister Brenda once told me, "Evelyn, open your eyes. Jessica only calls when she needs money." I defended my daughter fiercely. I said, "You don't know her heart the way I do. She's just stressed. Kevin puts pressure on her." Brenda sighed, shook her head, and said nothing more. Perhaps she knew this day would come. In that bank office, with the pen pressed into my hand, the weight of years collapsed on me. My sacrifices, the missed vacations, the worn shoes, the sleepless nights, all reduced to this moment, being forced to sign away the very roof over my head. Kevin leaned in, his voice low, dangerous. "Evelyn, you'll thank us later. You're too fragile to manage property taxes, repairs, all of it. Let us handle it. Just sign." I looked at Jessica. Her eyes didn't soften, They hardened. She was rehearsed, prepared. This wasn't a conversation, it was an ambush. And then I noticed something, a detail so small anyone else would have missed it. On the desk, just within my reach, sat a stack of blank deposit slips and a pen. An idea flickered, dangerous, fragile, but alive. To the viewers watching, if you were in my shoes, trapped between your child and her husband, what would you do? Would you fight? Or would you surrender just to keep the peace? I sat there, pretending to hesitate. My hand shook not just from age, but from the storm inside me. Jessica and Kevin thought they had already won. They thought I was cornered, powerless, broken. But as I reached for the pen, my eyes locked briefly with Mr. Harris. For the first time, I dared to imagine a different outcome. I might not be as powerless as they believed. Before we dive deep into this story, let me pause. If you're watching this on Tangled Heart Stories, remember to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Here, you'll always find stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and those unforgettable twists of fate. Where are you watching from today? Leave a comment below, who knows? The next story might echo your very own experience. Now, back to that moment. When you've lived nearly 7 decades, you accumulate 1,000 little sacrifices, stitched together like a quilt no one bothers to admire. Mine was patched with night shifts, unpaid loans, and the fading of my own dreams, so that Jessica's could shine brighter. I remember the night I pawned my wedding band. David had been sick, and the insurance hadn't kicked in yet. Jessica was starting her junior year at an expensive private college. She wanted to study fashion design, and tuition bills arrived like storms, merciless and relentless. I slipped into the pawn shop just before closing, the neon sign flickering above me. The man behind the counter turned the ring in his hands, unimpressed by the years of love it held. He gave me barely enough to cover Jessica's books. I walked out with an empty finger and a heavier heart, telling myself, it's only jewelry. She's worth more. When I handed her the money, she barely looked up from her phone. Finally, she muttered, and dashed off to meet friends. That was the first time I felt the sting, the faint whisper inside. Maybe she doesn't see what I'm giving up, but I silenced it. Mothers don't keep score, I told myself. Years passed like that. Sacrifice, silence, repeat. When Jessica got engaged, Kevin insisted on a grand wedding, a once-in-a-lifetime event, he declared, his smile charming, his words coated in sugar. He wanted chandeliers, a 5-course dinner, a ballroom that cost more than my house. David tried to reason with them. Why not something smaller? A backyard wedding, maybe? Jessica's lips curled in disgust. Dad, I'm not 13. This is my wedding, not a barbecue. And so, I co-signed a loan. I thought I was buying her happiness. What I didn't know was that I was also buying my own chains. Kevin's disdain grew bolder after David died. With David gone, I became a solitary pillar, wobbly, vulnerable, easy to push. One afternoon, I overheard Kevin on the phone in the kitchen. He didn't know I was folding laundry in the next room. His voice was sharp. The old woman's house is prime real estate. Once it's under our name, we'll refinance and finally get that lake property. Jessica just needs to keep her on a leash until then. My chest tightened. I pressed a hand against the wall to steady myself. The old woman. Was that all I was now? A property line to be moved, a bank account to be drained? That night, Jessica came to visit me in my little den. She stroked my hand, her voice soft. Mom, Kevin just worries too much. Don't take his words personally. He's stressed about money. But her eyes betrayed her. They flickered, darted away from mine. Not all my memories are bitter. Some are painfully sweet, the kind that make betrayal sharper. I remember Chloe, no more than 6, sneaking into my bed with her stuffed rabbit after a thunderstorm. "Grandma, don't be scared. I'll protect you," she whispered, her tiny arms wrapping around me. Children have a way of giving love so pure it almost heals everything. Almost. But Jessica used even Chloe as a pawn. One Christmas, when I gave Chloe a simple bracelet, a silver chain with her initials, Jessica scoffed. "Really, Mom? Couldn't you get her something better? She's not a charity case." I stared at the bracelet in Chloe's small hands. She loved it. She smiled and hugged me, but Jessica's words lingered like poison. The worst blow came after David's funeral. The house felt cavernous without him, every corner echoing with memories. I was clinging to the last thing he had left for me, a modest life insurance payout of $20,000. Not much, but enough for groceries, medications, and maybe a small trip someday. Jessica came over with Kevin. They sat across from me at the dining table, their expressions carefully rehearsed. "Mom," Jessica began, her tone dripping with artificial concern, "we've been going over expenses. Kevin thinks it's best if we use the insurance money to pay off some of our debts. It'll help stabilize things for all of us." "All of us?" I repeated, my voice trembling. "Yes," Kevin cut in smoothly. "Think of Chloe's future. College isn't cheap, and if we're financially stable, she'll benefit too. You want the best for your granddaughter, don't you?" I looked down at David's chair, still empty. The grief was still raw, the hole still bleeding. And in that vulnerable moment, I wrote the check. Later that night, lying in bed, I whispered into the darkness, "David, forgive me. I think I just gave away the last piece of us." Viewers, let me ask you this. Have you ever given until there was nothing left, only to be told it still wasn't enough? Have you ever heard words that made you question your worth, even from the people you loved most? If you have, then you know the hollow ache that lived in me. The weeks leading to that day at the bank were full of little humiliations. Jessica rarely called unless she wanted money. Kevin often joked in front of me, "We'll need to put Mom on an allowance soon." He laughed. Jessica laughed too. I forced a smile, though my stomach twisted. Brenda noticed. My sister tried to intervene gently. "Evelyn, you've done more than enough. It's time to draw a line." But I shook my head. A mother doesn't draw lines, Brenda. A mother gives until her last breath. Brenda's eyes filled with pity. "And what if they're choking you with that breath?" Her words haunted me. And so, the trap was set. The bank meeting was just the grand finale of years of manipulation. As Kevin pressed harder on my wrist and Jessica urged me to trust them, I finally began to see the story clearly. I was not the helpless mother they believed me to be, because for the first time, a small fire lit in my chest. A fire of anger. Yes, but also of clarity. I wasn't sure yet how I'd fight back. But one thing was certain. I could no longer keep silent. Kevin pushed the pen closer to my hand, his grip relentless. Jessica's voice, sweet as honey but sharp as glass, filled the air. "Mom, please, stop being so difficult. This is for your own good." For years I had believed those words. For your own good. They were the leash she tightened around my neck every time I hesitated. But that morning, under the sterile lights of Harris National Bank, something inside me shifted. I glanced at Mr. Harris again. His posture was professional, yet I sensed his hesitation. His eyes lingered on the tremor in my hands, on the way Kevin's fingers pressed into my skin. He wasn't fooled, not completely. My mind raced. If I spoke up, Jessica would spin it. She'd put on her perfect daughter act, the loving child caring for her frail mother. Kevin would back her up, smooth and confident. And me? I'd look confused, paranoid, just another old woman losing her grip on reality. That fear nearly silenced me again. Nearly. Then I remembered David's voice, gentle but firm. Evelyn, love doesn't demand silence. It doesn't ask you to erase yourself. I had erased myself long enough. Jessica tapped the papers impatiently. Mom, the sooner we sign this, the sooner you can relax. Don't you want peace? Peace. What a cruel word. She wasn't offering peace. She was offering erasure. I took the pen, but instead of lowering it to the paper, I slid my hand sideways toward the stack of blank deposit slips. My heart pounded. My palms were slick. With my other hand shielding the motion, I scribbled quickly, "Help, I'm being coerced." The letters wobbled, uneven, desperate, but they were clear. Sliding the note toward Mr. Harris felt like moving mountains. Every inch was agony. Jessica leaned in, nearly spotting it. My breath caught in my throat. Then Chloe's face flashed in my mind, my sweet granddaughter, innocent, trusting. Did I want her to grow up thinking love meant control? That family meant theft? No, I couldn't allow that legacy. Here, I murmured, pushing the slip across the desk as though it were part of the paperwork. Mr. Harris's eyes dropped. For a second, nothing happened. My chest tightened with panic. Had I just exposed myself for nothing? Then, subtly, his hand covered the slip. His thumb tapped the corner once. Acknowledgement. And then I heard it. A faint click beneath the desk. Kevin didn't notice. He was too busy grinning, convinced victory was seconds away. Jessica tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her act polished to perfection. "See, Mom?" she cooed. "Doesn't it feel good to finally let go?" Let go. She meant surrender. She meant annihilation. But I didn't feel good. I felt alive. Terrified, yes, but alive. For those of you watching, maybe you've been here too. Not literally in a bank, but trapped, cornered by people you trusted most. If it were you, would you risk everything on a tiny piece of paper? Or would you stay silent, hoping to survive another day? I had spent decades surviving. For once, I wanted to live. Jessica suddenly leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. She noticed the edge of the slip now tucked beneath Mr. Harris's hand. "What's that?" she asked sharply. My pulse roared in my ears. Mr. Harris's voice remained calm. "Just a routine document, Miss Carter. Shall we continue?" Jessica hesitated, suspicion flashing across her face. Then Kevin chuckled, dismissive. "Don't waste time. The sooner she signs, the sooner we're done." Relief washed over me like a tide. I had been seconds away from exposure. Mr. Harris stood, straightening his suit jacket. "Actually, let me just retrieve one more file from the back. It's procedure." His tone was casual, but his eyes met mine for a fleeting moment. Assurance. A promise. Jessica sighed dramatically. "Fine, but please hurry. My mother's exhausted." Exhausted. That was their favorite narrative. Too weak, too fragile, too incapable. But inside, I felt stronger than I had in years. As we waited, Kevin loosened his grip slightly, confident the deal was practically sealed. My wrist throbbed from the pressure, the skin already red. "You'll thank us for this, Evelyn," he whispered. "You're not capable of handling finances at your age. We're doing you a favor." A favor. My sacrifices had been rebranded as weakness, my love as liability. The anger in me surged, not hot and reckless, but cold and steady. For the first time, I wasn't ashamed of it. I thought of all the times I had been warned. Brenda, telling me to wake up. Friends at church, shaking their heads when they saw Jessica's constant demands. Even the cashier at the grocery store once muttered, "Honey, you can't keep buying their groceries and skipping your own meds." I had brushed it all aside because I wanted to believe in my daughter. I wanted to believe love was enough. But that day, I finally saw what love shouldn't be. When Mr. Harris returned, he placed a folder on the desk, his expression carefully neutral. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his voice firm but calm, "before you sign anything, I want to make sure you fully understand the legal implications." Jessica shifted uncomfortably. "That's not necessary. She trusts us." Mr. Harris's gaze didn't waver. "Actually, it is necessary, especially since this could fall under elder financial abuse." The words hung in the air like thunder. Jessica's mouth opened, then closed. Kevin froze. For once, his confidence cracked. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. Elder abuse. It was the first time anyone had named what was happening. Not sacrifice, not family obligation. Abuse. A crime. Tears welled in my eyes, but not from weakness, from recognition, from vindication. Kevin recovered quickly, forcing a laugh. "That's ridiculous. We're just helping her manage her assets." But Mr. Harris didn't laugh. He leaned forward, his voice low and steady. "This isn't help, it's coercion, and it's illegal." My breath caught. Illegal. That word was a lifeline, a rope thrown into the quicksand. For decades, I thought I was drowning because I wasn't enough. Now I realized I was drowning because they were holding me under. Jessica's hand tightened on my shoulder. "Mom, don't listen to this. He doesn't know our family. He doesn't understand." But I did understand. For the first time in years, I understood perfectly. And when I looked back at Mr. Harris, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. That was the turning point. Not the bank alarms, not the paperwork, not even the word illegal. It was the moment I decided I would no longer be their victim. I straightened my spine. My voice was still quiet, but steady when I said, "I'm not ready to sign." Jessica's eyes flashed with fury. Kevin's jaw clenched. And me? I felt the fire in my chest burn brighter. The silence after Mr. Harris's words was thick, charged. Elder abuse. Illegal. Jessica was the first to break it. "This is outrageous," she snapped, her sweet tone evaporating like mist under the sun. "You can't just accuse us of crimes. We're her family." Kevin leaned forward, his smile now a snarl. "Do you have any idea who you're talking to? We've taken care of her for years. If anything, she owes us." Mr. Harris didn't flinch. "I see a frail woman with a bruised wrist and 2 relatives forcing her to sign away her home. That's not care. That's coercion." Eyes around the bank began to turn. A teller paused mid-transaction. A man waiting with his son glanced over, curious. One young woman discreetly lifted her phone, recording. The cage of silence they'd built around me was breaking. I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, my voice didn't tremble. "This house," I said, my hand resting on the unsigned papers, "was built by David and me. Every brick, every beam. It was paid for with our sweat, our nights, our love. It does not belong to you, and it never will." Kevin scoffed, rolling his eyes. "You're delusional. You can't handle property management, taxes, maintenance. You're a liability, Evelyn." Liability. The word echoed like a hammer strike. But instead of crushing me, it sparked my defiance. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. The sound sliced through the room like thunder. "No," I said firmly. "I am not a liability. I am the owner. And you—" My eyes locked on Kevin's. "You're trespassing on my life." Gasps rippled around us. Jessica's face contorted. Gone was the sweet daughter act. her mask shattered. "Fine," she hissed, her voice venomous. "Don't sign, but don't come crying to me when you're all alone, rotting in that house with no one to visit you. You think Chloe will stick around? She'll forget you, just like I will." The words hit like knives, but instead of wounding, they cauterized. The wound closed, leaving only scar tissue and strength. I raised my chin. If being alone means being free from your chains, then I welcome it. Kevin slammed his fist on the table. "You ungrateful hag." A murmur of disapproval swept through the bystanders. The man with his son shook his head. "That's no way to talk to your mother-in-law," he muttered loudly enough for others to hear. The young woman recording stepped closer. "Everyone can see what's happening here. You can't hide it." Jessica's eyes darted nervously to the growing audience. She tried one last performance, tears welling on command. "Mom, please," she whimpered, clutching her chest. "I'm just trying to protect you. Why are you humiliating me like this?" Her sobs might have fooled strangers before, but not today, not here. I leaned closer, my voice steady, cutting through her theatrics. "This isn't protection, Jessica. This is extortion dressed as love." Mr. Harris pressed a button on his desk. 2 uniformed security guards appeared moments later, firm but professional. "Is there a problem, sir?" one asked. Mr. Harris gestured toward Jessica and Kevin. These individuals were attempting to coerce Mrs. Carter into signing over her property. "I'd like them escorted out while we document the incident." Jessica's tears turned into shrieks. "You can't do this. She's my mother." Kevin tried to bluster. "This is a misunderstanding. We're family." But the guards didn't buy it. One gently but firmly guided Kevin toward the exit. The other positioned himself between me and Jessica, ensuring space. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I exhaled without fear. My hands still shook, but now it was from release, not terror. I looked at Jessica, my only child. The little girl I had once carried on my hip, sung lullabies to, sacrificed everything for. "I gave you my youth," I whispered, voice heavy with sorrow. "I gave you my health, my dreams, my savings, and still, you demanded more. But today, Jessica, today I stop giving." Her face twisted into rage. "You'll regret this. You'll die alone. No one will remember you." I held her gaze, steady and unwavering. Respect isn't given by blood. It's earned through love and kindness, and you've lost both. The guards moved them toward the door. Kevin spat over his shoulder. "We'll find another way. You can't stop us." But in that moment, with dozens of eyes watching, with the bank's silent cameras recording everything, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. To those of you watching right now, let me ask, what would you have said, standing in my place? Would you have stayed quiet to keep the peace, or spoken the truth no matter the cost? Sometimes peace isn't silence. Sometimes peace is breaking the silence. Jessica's final words before the doors closed behind her echoed in my chest. "You're dead to me." The cruelty stung, but it also freed me, because for the first time, I realized I was no longer living for her approval. I was living for me. Mr. Harris approached softly. "Mrs. Carter, are you all right?" I wiped a tear from my cheek. This one born not of pain, but of release. "I will be," I said. "For the first time, I truly will be." But the battle wasn't over. As the doors shut behind Jessica and Kevin, I knew this confrontation was only the beginning. They would come back. They would try new tricks, guilt, manipulation, maybe even lies to relatives. Yet, as I stood taller in that bank office, surrounded by strangers who had witnessed the truth, I knew one thing for certain. I was no longer their victim. The quiet after Jessica and Kevin were escorted out felt almost holy. I sat back down, my chest rising and falling, each breath steadier than the last. For decades, my life had been defined by sacrifice. For Jessica, for David, for everyone but me. But that morning in the bank, I took my first step toward reclaiming my own name, my own worth. Still, battles don't end neatly. They echo. The days following the confrontation were stormy. My phone rang constantly, Jessica's number flashing over and over. Sometimes it was Kevin. Sometimes it was Chloe, her sweet voice coached into pleading. Grandma, don't you love me anymore? Mommy says you don't care about us. Each call shredded me, but I had learned to hear the truth beneath the words. Chloe's innocence was being weaponized. Jessica's cruelty had no boundaries. When guilt surged, I reminded myself of Mr. Harris's words. This is abuse. This is illegal. The calls shifted to threats. Jessica hissed, "Fine, keep the house. We'll tell everyone you've lost your mind. No one will believe you." And they tried. Rumors spread among distant relatives. Brenda called me one evening, concern in her voice. "Evelyn, Jessica's been saying you're confused, that you don't know what you're doing." My stomach twisted. But instead of breaking, I steadied myself. "Let her talk," I told Brenda. "The truth has already been witnessed. I don't need to fight lies with panic." Brenda's silence lingered a moment, then she sighed with relief. "You sound stronger than I've heard in years." I was. It was Sarah, my niece, who gave me my next lifeline. She'd once endured her own mother siphoning her college fund. She knew the sting of betrayal. "Aunt Evelyn," she said gently, "there's a support group I go to for families dealing with financial exploitation. You don't have to carry this alone." I hesitated. Old habits die hard, and mine was silence. But eventually, I went. The first meeting was small. 6 women sat in a circle, their faces etched with stories like mine. Grace, a soft-spoken widow, shared how her son had drained her savings for gambling. Janet, the group leader, spoke about how manipulation hides under the mask of love. As I listened, something inside me unlocked. For years, I thought my shame was unique. My silence deserved. But here, surrounded by women nodding, weeping, holding each other's hands, I realized I wasn't alone. When it was my turn, my voice cracked but didn't break. "My daughter tried to steal my home," I whispered. And for the first time, I told her no. The room erupted in gentle applause. Not mocking, not pity, applause. It was the sound of solidarity. That night I slept better than I had in months. For once my dreams weren't filled with Jessica's demands or Kevin's sneers. They were filled with possibilities. Slowly, I began reclaiming my life. I took up painting again, something I had abandoned after Jessica was born. My hands, once busy scrubbing dishes and folding uniforms, now mixed colors on canvas. Each stroke was a declaration. I exist. I matter. Jessica didn't stop. She called less frequently, but sent messages dripping with venom. "You'll die forgotten. Don't expect Chloe to visit. She'll learn who you really are. You've ruined this family." But the words no longer pierced me. They slid off like rain against stone. One afternoon, my phone buzzed with a different message. It was from Chloe, unscripted, raw. "Grandma, I miss you. I don't believe what Mommy says. Can I see you soon?" Tears blurred my eyes. Finally, the chain was breaking. The seed of love I had planted in Chloe had taken root. Jessica couldn't poison it completely. Months later, I boarded a plane to Italy, a trip David and I had always dreamed of but never took. As the plane lifted off, I felt the weight of years fall away. In Florence, I wandered cobblestone streets, sketchbook in hand. I tasted gelato by the Arno River, painted sunlit piazzas, and allowed myself the luxury of laughter. One evening, sitting in a small cafe, my phone buzzed again. A photo arrived. Chloe at her recital, wearing the costume we once talked about. Her smile radiant, her message simple. For you, Grandma, I love you. I pressed the phone to my chest, the cafe lights blurring as tears welled again. This time, they weren't tears of loss. They were tears of survival, of reclamation. Viewers, if you've stayed with me through this story, let me ask you, have you ever found the courage to draw a line, even when it meant losing someone you thought you couldn't live without? Because here's what I've learned. Love without respect isn't love. Family without kindness isn't family. And silence? Silence is not peace. It's surrender. I'm not surrendered anymore. I'm Evelyn Carter, 69 years old, widow, mother, grandmother, survivor, and finally, my own person. Respect isn't given by blood. It's earned through love and kindness. If you're listening to this and you've felt the sting of betrayal in your own family, know this: you are not alone and you are not powerless. Draw your line. Protect what's yours, your home, your heart, your dignity. Because sometimes the bravest act of love is saying no. To our community here at Tangled Heart Stories, if this story touched you, leave a comment below. Have you ever seen or experienced a similar injustice? What would you have done in my place? Share your story. Someone here will understand. Someone will nod and say, "Me too." Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Here, no one suffers in silence. Together we speak for fairness, respect, and healing. Because here, every story is a reminder. No one has to endure alone.